Welcome to Walpole Five-0. I'm Chief John Carmichael. Today is January 2nd, 2018. Can you believe that? Hope everybody had a great Christmas and a great New Year as well, or Christmas or whatever holiday it might be that you celebrate. Hopefully Santa Claus was good to you, and also that you had a great New Year. I can't believe it's 2018. It's extremely cold outside, and I really am wondering why we live here right now. We love Massachusetts, love New England, but it is awful cold out there. So anyways, hopefully you're staying warm. I got a few items in the log this week that will kind of go over what some of the weather issues that we've faced. Before I get into that, winter parking ban is in effect, so no parking on public ways during nighttime hours, and that's really just to keep the streets clear for when the plows may have to come through during the night. And we start to do that in the fall and then through the winter. So please, if you have any vehicles, try and keep those in the driveway. Midnight shift is out there, mostly issuing warnings, but if we have to keep going back, they may issue some parking tickets on the ban. So just be aware of that. Another issue, street lights out. A lot of street lights out throughout Walpole. If you drive around at night, you will see that a lot of them are out. We do keep a running list of all of these lights, and we notify Eversource when those lights are out so that they can get out here and replace them. They're very slow in doing it. There's lights that we've reported numerous times over the past couple months that still haven't been replaced, but we will stay on them because it really is a public safety issue, especially, it gets dark earlier, and it's an issue that we need to stay up on. But if you do have a street light out on your street, we encourage you to call the dispatcher, 508-668-1095, and let them know that what street it is, what your address is, and the pole number if you can get that, and if you can get that safely. So, and then we can get that out to Eversource and get that running list to them so that we can get those lights fixed. All right, so getting into the law, going back to December 19th, harassment issue up in Sector 2, which is South Walpole, individual receiving harassing messages on Facebook. And, the old days of just harassing somebody face-to-face do not happen as much anymore. It's all, on social media or on Facebook, that type of thing. Person is a victim of that. Officer Moriarty responded. He explained the harassment prevention order issues, as well as tried to reach out to that person who was making the harassing messages to see if they will stop doing that. If they continue, then we document those, and we can help that person get a harassment prevention order. A larceny, this was at PetSmart at the Walpole Mall. There was a report of a past larceny, and the suspect, they actually identified this person being in the store. And they do a very good job, these chain stores, of communicating with one another. So they saw this individual in there that's been banned from other stores, that's been caught stealing from other stores. As a result, they called us, we took a report, and we'll be further investigating that incident, as well as with the other communities where that's happened. There was an arrest. This was for threats that were made. Detective Songen and Benner arrested an individual, a juvenile, after they made threats to shoot or fire a weapon at the agricultural school. They did not do so, but they did make some arrests. This is a situation where a 17-year-old young man, he obviously made a bad decision. It was a spontaneous reaction to him getting in trouble in school, and made some statements. However, we know in this day and age you cannot make statements like that. You have to take it seriously. We do take it seriously. And while we do not believe that there was an immediate threat or that he'd carry this threat out in any way, we did have to take precautions and arrest him, and as such, that will be continued in juvenile court. Disturbance, there was a disturbance in Sector 3. Reports of a verbal argument with a teenage son. This ends up being a situation where it's over video games, and the individual getting upset at the video games and kind of taking it out on the video games, and the parent got to a point where they wanted the police assistance, but prior to our arrival, we're able to de-escalate that and kind of take care of that situation on its own. Peace was restored. Totally understand that. The thing with the video games, it's out of control. There's too much of it. Larceny. There was, as I've reported in the past month or so, we've had a significant amount of packages being stolen off of doorsteps. People, these are Christmas presents and holiday presents or whatever that are being delivered, and people going right up and stealing them right off of the stoop, and obviously victimizing people right before the holidays. And we never like this. Like, this is it's pretty low thing to do. But anyways, we have had multiple occasions of that. I have a couple more I'll report this week, and as a result of this one here, this was on Main Street where an individual a victim reported that their package was stolen that was delivered. There was another package that was delivered from another company, which was delivered by Amazon, which is a little bit odd. We did start an investigation, developed information that there was a white van involved. Obviously, we started to stop some of the white delivery vans in the area. We were able to locate one individual who was an Amazon driver driving a white van, who was able to show his bill of lading and his deliveries that he made over the past couple of days. And he actually had made 183 deliveries that day. Showed us where those locations were. It did not include the address where we were looking, but he did provide us with some information how to follow up, because one of the packages that was stolen, they left behind the actual packaging and took the items out of it. So we were able to ascertain a tracking number. We were able to track that number back to who delivered it, and it turns out that we suspected that the individual who actually delivered the other package for Amazon, the original package, was the same person that stole the other package that was on the steps when they delivered it. So we developed enough information to seek a search warrant, and we were able to go down to Attleboro. There was a situation. This was Officer Doherty and Officer Foley started the initial investigation. They did a great job with it. And then Detective Toller and Benner also assisted, but we were able to execute the search warrant and recover the stolen items from the people's location. And then the person wasn't arrested, but they will be charged, summoned into court at a later date. We were not able to link this specific situation back to any of the other package thefts that we've had, unfortunately. But we did send the message. This one individual who did have some of the stolen items and admitted to doing so. So good job by the officers on that. On December 20th, this was a disturbance at Longview. There was a report of a juvenile who was attacking a staff member and had some kicked the door and caused some damage. Units responded there. Longview, they have some new staff members up there. They did a great job of de-escalating the situation. Worked with some of the clients up there. The kid even, told the officers that he overreacted, but it was the way the circumstances happened. He reacted to it spontaneously, and as a result, assaulted this other person. The victim did not want to pursue this, so we were able to work with staff, the student, and the police in order to seek alternative methods, and that's internal discipline type of situation. And peace was ultimately restored. So good job on that by not just Longview staff, but the officers and the kid who was able to de-escalate and work with us on it. A runaway, there was an individual claimed he lost his wallet from Longview. We were unable to locate him originally, and then we were able to find him and give him a ride back. There was some other issues where he was upset about losing employment up at Legacy Place, and also there's another situation there, but teenagers consuming marijuana there on the premises, and as a result there was some quick action taken and consequences, and they were taken up there to deal with that as far as losing privileges, so they did a great job with that. An OUI, Officer Perchicante arrested an individual from North Attleboro, Mansfield, and unbeknownst to this individual, Officer Perchicante happened to be out on the motorcycle that night on the 4 to 12 shift, Don't ask me why. I know it's cold. He's a madman, though. He's out on Route 1. He stopped at the light. It's dark out. The other vehicle pulls up next to him. As the light turns green, the officer starts to accelerate. The vehicle accelerates next to him, and he does not realize that the motorcycle is actually a motorcycle police officer. As he's moving ahead, he's almost like challenging him to like a road race type of thing. And ultimately, when it started to turn into the road race, the officer activated his blue lights and he conducted a motor vehicle stop, which the operator obviously was a little shocked and dismayed to find out that it was a police bike. But in any event, this individual was intoxicated. He was coming from the British Beer Company on one of their last nights of operation, and he was intoxicated, felt awful about what happened, didn't realize it was a police officer, but in any event, he was arrested for OUI, and he did take a breathalyzer with a result of 0.19%, which is more than double the legal limit. Stolen rims, Walpole PD conducted an investigation, also working with Transit PD, Attleboro PD, Mansfield, Norwood, Boston, everybody pretty much in the Route 1 corridor from Rhode Island up to Boston. We've had series of vehicle tires and rims being stolen off of motor vehicles. We've had this occur. It's always been a crime that happens on occasion. There's been an increase in them this year. For whatever reason, and part of that reason probably is that it's an easy sale. You can get these tires and rims and you can sell them quickly on the illicit market, so it's one thing that they do, but they do target certain areas, mostly along the Route 1 corridor, residences, apartment buildings, and now MBTA lots. So this particular case happened in one of the MBTA parking lot. In the past, we've had a lot of them at car dealerships. And what we're doing is we're finding these vehicles on blocks. They're actually going in, jacking the vehicle up, stealing the tires. In this particular case, they actually broke the back window, gained access to the vehicle, avoiding the alarm and getting the lug nut key from the glove box. So that's a good tip, is to not keep that in there, keep that with you. And they got in there and were able to steal all 4 tires and leave it up on the blocks. These are very expensive tires. We're talking several $1,000s worth. And this poor person, the victim, had just recently started a new job, was working in Boston, took the train in, and unfortunately came back to this. So this is, I can tell you, a very fluid investigation involving multiple agencies and multiple sharing of information and everything. So hopefully we'll get to the bottom of it. There are suspects, but it's something that there is a kind of a chain of them that we're trying to look into. December 21st, a road rage incident. Officer Henneberry responded to Route 1 and 27. There was a report of a road rage incident. He got there, people were still on scene, and he was able to speak to those individuals about that. Never worth it. Don't stop. These things never turn out right. You know, let it go, I guess, is the best thing I can say. I know people drive like maniacs here in Massachusetts sometimes, and they can even cause crashes, and they put you in danger when they do it. But if you get past that point, you know, let it go, because nothing ever good happens from the road rage incidents. Emotionally disturbed person, I'll mention these will be a significant amount of our calls, especially this time of year, unfortunately. You know, the holidays aren't always a happy time for everybody, and sometimes we see these calls increase. We've seen a significant increase in our mostly disturbed person calls, mental health issues in 2017, where we actually saw a 100% increase from what we saw in 2016. So it's something that we continue to work with, and but something that is definitely a significant issue that we're experiencing. So Officer Parlon dealt with this. There was a voluntary transport to the hospital. Next one is a water break. We've had multiple water breaks in the past week or so, week and a half. This one here was at Eldor near Winter Street, and Officer Slavin and Pylon assisted. I have to give kudos to the water department. They've done an amazing job of getting out there. These guys are working in ditches and frigid temperatures, and they're getting right out and dealing with these issues so that everybody can continue to have their water running in just difficult weather and temperature situation there for them. So great job, and you got to appreciate that. December 23rd, a disturbance, Officer Powers and Foley, they responded to a coffee shop. There was a disturbance between two individuals. One individual called 911 stating that a male inside that location pushed her, and they was able to determine upon our arrival that that individual was consuming alcohol, however not incapacitated. We were able to restore peace at that scene and then give that person a ride home and call it a day. Crash, Patrolman Foley responded this is one of our DPW workers got into a crash. This is when, back on the 23rd, 24th, when we had some bad weather and causing some black ice and sheets of ice out there, and even our standing trucks have to deal with that situation, and a good reason why we always ask people not to be out and about in those conditions, because even the sander slid down the hill on the ice and into a utility pole and snapped that pole in half, which caused live wires to fall down in that area. So Eversource went out, and we were able to work with them with an officer on scene to help get that pole replaced quickly. OUI arrest, Officer Powers and Foley, they responded to the area of Page Avenue, and this was for, we got a call of a female that was unconscious behind the wheel. The operator, it turns out to be a 22-year-old female from Foxborough, and she was subsequently taken into custody for OUI, but she had turned off of Main Street to Page Ave and stopped in the middle of the road for whatever reason and basically passed out. She was highly intoxicated. The vehicle was running, and that person was passed out at the wheel, no shoes on or anything like that. And we get the whole situation. It's the holiday season. Everybody wants to celebrate. A lot of alternatives out there to driving, though, with the Uber and taxis and all that stuff. There's a lot of easier ways to get around. Unfortunately, she didn't take advantage of that, and she did show significant signs of impairment, refused field sobriety test, and in addition to the alcohol, was also under the influence of prescription medications that do cause drowsiness and that type of thing, and obviously something you don't want to mix. So as a result, that individual was placed under arrest for OUI. Arrest, individual was arrested. This was a victim stated that they were assaulted, and one individual bit another individual, and one individual was therefore placed under arrest. It was Officer Bieberman and Officer Haber that took that report. A disturbance, this was between an individual and a 15-year-old son that were arguing. Turns out that this is all just a verbal argument, and Officer Foley and Perch County responded and helped restore peace there at that scene. UPS package stolen. So a resident in Sector 4, which is North Walpole, they reported having package delivered at approximately 2:30 p.m. And was stolen before they were able to get that package that day. So Sector 4 was where most of our package thefts occurred, which is North Walpole. Significant amount of them. Again, this is a situation we can't tie that or link that into any of the other thefts on the summons and the person that we identified as stealing some of the other ones, because it happens. It's been happening so frequently, not just in Walpole, but all around, that there's just too many people doing it, unfortunately. Neighbor dispute. This is East Walpole. A couple people arguing over the parking spot. Officer Doherty to issue. This is not South Boston. So you can't claim those parking spots, okay? But anyways, that's what it was over. And that was dealt with and peace restored. Fraud, internet scam. Individual victim reports that they were scammed out of about $2,000. Officer Doherty took a report on that. Always use caution with anything that has to do with the internet and trading money and sending money over the internet. There is a lot of scams that are constant out there, and you have to be very careful these days about any transfer of your personal information or cash flow or anything like that. You just be careful with it. December 25th, disturbance. There was a disturbance reported by individuals. Someone after the disturbance, an individual left on foot, obviously causing some concern because of the weather. You don't want people out there in that type of weather. We did find out that this individual was picked up by somebody else and brought to another location. Make sure they got out of the cold. One of that situation, we're just glad the disturbance is over, but you're worried about the person being out in those conditions. Protective custody, individual placed in protective custody following a disturbance at the residence after having too much to drink there, and best alternative with that to quell that disturbance would be to bring that person in on protective custody till they sober up. Arrest, there was assault and battery took place. Individual went with an acquaintance and after a verbal argument kicked the door down or kicked the door in and entered that home, and obviously causing that person to be in fear inside, called 911 from a bathroom, and we were able to get down there quick enough to deal with that individual and place them under arrest just first for the assault. Assault with no battery, meaning there's nothing physical, but there was the threat of violence, and that's the type of situation which amounts to an assault. So that was the charge. Emotionally disturbed person, suicidal ideation. Individuals was responded and transported without incident to Norwood Hospital and sectioned. One of the things I will just say with some of the EDP calls is that we do have a very good community crisis intervention team. We work with all of the area hospitals, Department of Mental Health, Riverside, all those places, our schools, and we're getting to a point where we can actually, I think part of why we're getting more calls is because people aren't afraid, or they're getting rid of some of the stigma that's associated with the drug issues, to get help, and we're here to help. We always want to help people out with this stuff, and so I think that could contribute to some of the increase in calls. Unwanted party, this is at the new hotel on Route 1. Report of a male in the lobby who refuses to leave. They did leave once the police arrived. Disturbance, landlord-tenant dispute. This was in Washington Street, East Walpole. All parties were spoken to by Patrolman Moriarty. He did a report, and they were able to come to an agreement on what that dispute was over. We have to go to those a lot, so that situation was taken care of. Crash, motor vehicle crash, Maine and Spring Valley. This individual was driving on Route 1A and went into a telephone pole, completely snapped the pole, again, wires down on the vehicle. There was no signs of impairment or anything with this crash, but the individual was cited with a marked lanes violation, and we had to get people right out to deal with that pole as well, because you're right at bad spot there, Maine at Spring Valley. Section 35, which is an involuntary substance abuse commitment, we responded to with we call it a warrant of apprehension, with somebody that petitioned the court to get a loved one some help, to get them into treatment, and we were able to pick that person up and transport them directly to court. Breaking and entering, this is up on Route 1 apartment complex. There was a breaking and entering where there was 2 screens that were cut and the windows were open through those screens. The suspects were able to gain access to that location, and there was numerous items of property that were stolen from the apartment and in the bedrooms. There is a multiple day time frame in which this incident could have occurred, so people weigh, so it's, we're trying to narrow that down. And this is currently under investigation by Officer Parlon Thayer, Detective Benner, and Detective Sergeant Kelleher. On December 27th, the disturbance involves just some patrons and a Uber driver. The passengers just wanted to go to another destination. The Uber driver wanted them to order another ride for some reason. I don't know if that's protocol or if they have to do that, but in any event, started an argument, and officers had to respond up there and keep the peace. A summons, Officer Slavin stopped an individual for operating an unregistered vehicle, operating an uninsured vehicle, and not having an inspection sticker. And as a result, that person will be summoned. And I should mention that Officer Slavin also got a commendation from a citizen right around the same night, I believe, for her courteousness, and she stopped in motor vehicles that night, stopped some other vehicles, and the person was actually, who got pulled over, was actually so impressed with Michelle that he filled out a commendation form for her because she was so nice during the stop, and that even more so impressed was the fact that it was freezing cold out at night and she was still stopping motor vehicles instead of hiding in the warmth of the cruiser. So we appreciate Michelle doing that as well. Protective custody, Officer Henneberry, who I need to mention is now off field training officer program. He's out on his own now. He's done an amazing job in the past 12 weeks on field training, and he is out there on his own. He got a call of an intoxicated female. He did go down there, engage this person. They were so intoxicated they did need to go to the hospital. We don't want those people in our lockup. Usually when they end up here, it's because they're a harm to themselves and they could be a harm to others. And as a result, we place them in protective custody till they sober up. In this case, it was more of a hospital visit type of situation. B&E to a motor vehicle. This was East Walpole. Individual went outside. He discovered that his side window was smashed out. So far, he doesn't notice anything missing at this time. Doesn't believe he was victimized for anything else because the night before he was just simply at work and came home at the end of the night and just went in. So we don't know if this was what the intent was here. He didn't find anything missing. So we have had some car breaks in East Walpole, right in and around Bird Park, Polly Lane area, and this is quite close to that area, so could be related, but we don't know. Next one, there was a crash. This was a rollover. This was a truck, a dump truck trailer, making a delivery at this was at a landscaping business, and ended up sliding and rolling over on its side, basically. So again, we did have some crashes that were weather related, cold related, and that type of thing this past couple weeks. Moving on to December 31st, an arrest of a shoplifter. This was an individual that was at Walmart. They stole about $200 worth of merchandise. When the officers got there, they found a 45-year-old High Park man, and he had, in addition to the stolen merchandise, he had some pharmaceuticals that were not prescribed to him, some being opioids, some being benzodiazepines, and as a result, the individual was charged with shoplifting, possession of Class B, which was the Suboxone, and then possession of Class E, which was some benzos. And in this case here, the officers were able to provide him with some of our resource kits, and I appreciate them doing that, because they don't just take this as obviously what happens is when people are shoplifting or breaking into cars or homes or that type of thing, a lot of times they're doing that crime to fuel their drug addiction, and is probably likely the case here, where this individual is shoplifting items that he can sell quickly, but it's really designed to help fuel his addiction. And so the officers are aware of that, and what they do is they do take this another step. As opposed to just arresting him and dealing with those issues, they're giving him resource kits to go and try and seek treatment, and hopefully he'll do that. January 1st, stranded motorists. There's a couple people stranded in East Walpole. Happens on occasion, and one individual was able to get on the bus and be transported back to Boston. Officer Powers assisted another person on Route 1 and Union Street to get them home. An arrest, individual There's a couple of individuals from the North Shore. They left the Patriots game, and as they were traveling down Route 1, they had a couple of drinks, and at one point their argument became physical when that individual struck the passenger multiple times. They ended up pulling over to the side of the road on Route 1, and our officers went up there and responded and placed the individual under arrest for assault and battery. An erratic operator reported on Main Street. Officer Doherty located that person. They checked out to be fine. A disturbance on Sector 4. Individuals, I didn't put all the details of that one in there. But anyways, there was some type of disturbance. One individual decided to leave on their own for the night, and as a result, peace was restored there. Malicious destruction. Officer Doherty found some damage to the front door of the British Beer Company. The owner was notified. Officer Foley took photographs of that damage. This could be related to the fact that there's been a situation there with the lease, and the BBC is getting ready to move out of there pretty soon. If not, I think they already have, actually. Protective custody report of, we found a report of a male stumbling into the roadway, and he was falling on the sidewalk on Common Street at South Street. Officer Powers, Murphy, and Wilmot went up there. They located that individual and transported. He was highly intoxicated, so had to be transported again to Norwood Hospital. We don't want that person in our lockup and needed to go to the hospital. And that was his introduction to 2018, unfortunately. Disturbance, a report of a loud party at the Fairfield Inn. Again, this was a second call there. Patrolman Wilmot and Murphy responded. All was quiet on arrival. And you know, congratulations to the Fairfield Inn. Welcome to Walpole. They, I noticed that the game days and before and after the Patriots game, the hotel was completely full. So that's a good thing, and I think that was the intent of putting the hotel there. EDP, mostly disturbed person. Somebody called, asked for us to help. We spoke to that individual, got them to voluntarily go to the hospital. And again, great job by the officers and encouraging that person to go get help, and they did. Lifeline alarm, person reports that they activated their lifeline alarm and they're requesting help. Officer Doherty responded with the fire department. Paramedics were able to locate that man. They did have to make forced entry to get inside. And the man was transported to Norwood Hospital. And can't say enough about Lifeline because, you know, I can honestly tell you that in my career years ago, we would see situations where people fall down, or you know, elderly people fall down, and they just can't get the help. They can't get to the 911 line. When then they just basically are immobile. They can't move, and they yell and ask for help. And this here, they just push that alarm, and they can actually speak to the people on there, and it's a great thing that we have that type of technology. And last but not least, it was a disturbance. This was in Sector 4, North Walpole. Just a physical argument, just needed some help in restoring peace. The officers went down there, helped restore peace, and cleared that scene. And as I mentioned before, you know, that's a lot of what we do. We are peace officers, and we have to be there to help maintain peace and kind of be that person, the in-between, when people can't seem to get to an understanding with some things. So that's it for today, January 2nd, 2018. And welcome to 2018. I wish you a great year. And thank you for joining me here on Walpole Five-0. I'll see you next time.